Deep within the Amazon, something is happening far from any human gaze. Beneath treetops that barely allow light to pass and air thick with humidity, there are human communities that do not seek attention or leave traces behind. From the outside, this land appears hostile, chaotic, even empty. But it is not. People live here. People who, when they sense danger, do not look for higher ground, solid shelters, or visible defenses. Instead, they adjust the way they exist, allowing the rainforest to conceal every movement. What drives a human being to choose a life so distant from everything we associate with safety, comfort, and control? Welcome to CronoPlanet, a place where the world is not observed from afar, but understood from within. What you are about to discover does not belong to a vanished past. These are 7 present-day Amazonian peoples who continue to live in the largest and most demanding rainforest on Earth. 7 different ways of surviving that challenge a deeply rooted belief that progress always means greater protection. If journeys told with rigor and respect resonate with you, stay with us until the end. The final tribe you will encounter lives under extreme conditions, and their story gives meaning to everything you have seen so far. Are you ready to discover how survival works when remaining unseen is the key? Let us begin in a land where the rainforest is not easily crossed, where every step is measured, and where the greatest danger does not roar or hide. It arrives when no one expects it. Zo'é, isolation as an immune system. Observe how this place seems to close in on itself. The vegetation is dense, the atmosphere heavy, and pathways disappear with ease. This too is the Amazon. But here, survival is not built outward. It is protected from within. Even for those who attempt to reach this area, access is slow and complex. There are no clear routes or stable reference points. Any foreign presence is detected almost immediately. Within this environment lives a human community that has learned a crucial lesson over time. The greatest danger does not always come from the forest, but from what arrives from the outside. There are no large villages visible from above. Homes are light, open, and built from materials the environment itself continually renews. Nothing is designed to last longer than necessary. Because here, the first thing to be protected is the body. For generations, the Zo'é people maintained minimal contact with the outside world, not out of cultural rejection or symbolic tradition, but through direct experience. Each time contact was sudden or uncontrolled, consequences followed. Diseases common to us spread rapidly. People without prior immunity fell ill within days. Encounters that seemed harmless ended in tragedy. That memory is not lost, it is passed on. For the Zo'é, the forest is not only a home, it functions as an active form of protection, a space that reduces risk, slows invisible threats, and gives the body time to endure. Living in isolation is not a deficiency. It is a way of staying alive. Everything in their way of life follows this logic. The pigments applied to their skin are part of daily adaptation to a harsh, humid environment and are linked to protection, identity, and bodily balance. Life outdoors avoids enclosed spaces where problems accumulate. They do not store more than necessary. They do not remain in one place for too long. Their diet follows the rhythm of the forest. They hunt, fish, and gather without forcing the environment. Here, haste itself becomes a source of illness. But this system has a very clear limit. A single uncontrolled contact can put the entire community at risk. That is why measures now exist to restrict any external approach. not as an ideological stance, but as basic protection. And yet, the question remains open. Is it fragile to live protected from the world? Or is it fragile to depend on it in order to survive? From this first point in the journey, the Amazon leaves a clear idea. Sometimes, caring for oneself does not mean getting closer, but knowing when to keep distance. And while some people survive by maintaining separation, others have taken this logic one step further. Not by staying still, not by waiting, but by moving constantly in order to leave no trace. What comes next is not defended by raising invisible boundaries. It is defended by walking. And now you will understand why. Nukak, surviving by moving without leaving a trace. You move through the rainforest, never fully trusting the ground beneath you. Every step sinks slightly. The earth gives way, absorbs water, reshapes itself under your feet as if the landscape refuses to settle. The rainforest has shifted its tone. The land is lower, denser, more unstable. Here, movement is not confident, it is negotiated. The air is thick. Humidity clings to the skin. Everything feels alive, even what you cannot see. In this environment, where staying too long in one place can become a silent risk, lives the Nukak people. For them, safety was never tied to a fixed location, but to the ability to read a forest in constant transformation. Their survival does not rely on building lasting structures, but on recognizing when a space begins to turn dangerous. They read subtle signs: a rise in insects, soil saturation, the buildup of organic remains, changes in nighttime sounds. When the environment becomes unhealthy, they reorganize and move on. Camps are simple and functional. They are set up quickly and abandoned without attachment. The goal is not to dominate space, but to pass through it without altering it. When they leave, the rainforest completes the process. Vegetation reclaims the clearing. Footprints fade. The forest closes again. This way of life serves a crucial function. It prevents the prolonged accumulation of waste. It reduces constant exposure to parasites and pathogens, and it limits the risk of infection in a world where moisture is everywhere. Here, walking is not merely movement. It is a form of collective care. For generations, the Nukak maintained this balance within one of the most humid and demanding ecosystems on Earth. But that balance was broken when contact with the outside world ceased to be a choice. Following the first unplanned contacts in the late 20th century, this led to serious consequences, including a dramatic population decline caused by disease and displacement. Illnesses common to us, such as influenza, measles, and respiratory infections, spread rapidly among people with no prior immune defenses. What was called progress from the outside translated here into loss, uprooting, and silence. Since then, movement has become more than cultural inheritance. It has become a necessary response to an increasingly fragmented territory. Today, they continue to move through spaces that grow smaller each year. Traditional routes are disrupted, safe margins shrink, and still, they move forward. Because for this people, identity is not fixed to a point on a map. It lives in the journey, in paths learned through the body, in a memory that is not drawn, but felt. There are no visible borders. There are signals that indicate when to move forward and when not to. And then an inevitable question arises. How would your way of life change if movement were the only way to stay alive? Because the silence they leave behind is not emptiness. It is a conscious choice, a way of telling the forest, we are still here. but we leave no scars. With that logic as a shield, the journey now leads us toward another form of survival. A territory where knowing how to move is no longer enough. Where what matters is knowing exactly what to take, when to do so, and how to avoid illness. From this point on, the rainforest is no longer understood through the feet. It is understood through what has been learned. Huni Kuin, Kaxinawá. The rainforest as a living pharmacy. Look at this place carefully. The air changes. Breathing becomes different, denser, deeper. The sound of water follows every step, and light filters gently through tall canopies that seem to watch over everything. You move between slow rivers and high forest, in a strip of jungle stretching between Brazil and Peru. Nothing here feels accidental. Every plant holds its place. Every leaf seems to guard a secret. This is the territory of the Huni Kuin people, also known as the Kaxinawá. For them, the forest is not only food or shelter. It is a living system of knowledge, a pharmacy that breathes. As you move forward, you quickly learn that not everything can be touched, not everything can be cut, and certainly not everything can be tasted. Every root, every bark, every sap has an exact moment when it must be used. Too early or too late, it can lose its effect or become dangerous. Here, health does not begin when the body falls ill, but in the way you walk, eat, and rest. Villages are organized near water, but without interfering or altering its course. Gardens are small and rotating, designed to give the soil time to recover. Health does not belong to one person. It is shared, protected, passed on. Elders teach how to recognize plants by scent, by texture, and by the time of day they must be collected. A mistake in timing can cancel the effect or change it entirely. That is why knowledge is not improvised. It is learned through the body and through experience. Some plants do not act only on the physical. They also change perception, not to escape reality, but to understand it more clearly. For the Huni Kuin, healing means restoring the relationship between the person, the community, and the forest. This knowledge is not written down. It is not stored in books. It moves from voice to voice, gesture to gesture, generation to generation. And that is why it is fragile. When this knowledge leaves the forest without context, it fractures. It becomes an isolated substance, trend, commodity, consumption. But it loses what matters most, the relationship that gives it meaning. For them, the rainforest does not offer infinite resources. It offers answers, only to those who know how to ask with respect. None of this is merely symbolic. It is practice, applied to everyday life. And it leads to a key question: what happens when we take what we have learned, but fail to protect the place that made it possible? The balance they maintain is delicate. Deforestation, external pressure, and loss of territory threaten more than their way of life. They threaten an entire system for understanding the human body. Because here, illness is not an isolated accident. It is a signal, a sign that something in the relationship with the environment has been broken. While the modern world searches for quick fixes, this community reminds us of something uncomfortable. True medicine is not always about healing faster, but about not breaking what keeps balance in place. And that balance is not unique in the Amazon. Stay close, because now we are heading into a place where survival no longer depends on hunting or healing, but on maintaining a balance so fragile that breaking it affects an entire community. Enawenê-Nawe. Surviving without hunting. The sound of water begins to dominate the landscape, not as a constant murmur, but as a pulse that shapes every decision. In this region of western Brazil, in the state of Mato Grosso, rivers do not simply cut through the forest, they organize it. Their cycles determine when people eat, when they work, and when they wait. Here lives the Enawenê-Nawe people, one of the Amazon's most singular societies for a rare reason. They do not hunt terrestrial animals. Their survival depends almost entirely on fishing and on cultivating manioc. But calling it a diet would be far too simple. What they sustain is a complex system of relationships between people, water, fish, and invisible forces that, to them, keep the world in balance. Villages are always placed near the river, in carefully chosen areas to avoid flooding. Homes are arranged in a circle, reinforcing collective life and daily cooperation. Food is not stockpiled or privatized. It is shared. Because individual survival makes little sense if the group weakens. Their calendar is not measured in weeks or abstract seasons. It is measured in fish movements. When certain species begin to migrate, ritual preparations begin. When they return, the entire community acts, not as hunters extracting a resource, but as participants in a cycle that must remain intact. For the Enawenê-Nawe, fishing is not only technique, it is spiritual responsibility. During the Yaokwa ritual, recognized by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage of humanity, chants, dances, and offerings are performed to ensure harmony between humans and the Yakairidi, spirits associated with fish and water. They believe that if these spirits are angered, the river becomes sterile. And when the river stops providing, life becomes unviable. This ritual does not last hours. It lasts months. It involves fasting, collective movement, building temporary fishing dams, and extreme social coordination. Each person fulfills a precise role. No one acts outside the whole. Manioc completes this balance. It is grown in small, rotating plots, guided by deep knowledge of the soil and its recovery time. Knowing when to plant is as important as knowing when not to. Here, excess is a threat. This system, refined over generations, works only if the environment remains stable. And that is where its greatest vulnerability lies. Hydroelectric dams, altered river courses, and upstream pollution directly affect their survival. A change in current can interrupt fish migrations. And when that happens, the crisis is not only nutritional, it is spiritual, social, and cultural. For the Enawenê-Nawe, there is no separation between nature and society. They do not speak of an environment. They speak of relationships, of pacts that must be honored. Living without hunting is not a renunciation. It is a way of sustaining a world where every element has a function and where balance is never assumed. It is cared for. Maybe it is worth pausing for a moment and asking, what happens when a community has built its life in harmony with nature? And that balance begins to shift from the outside without warning. Because the river does not negotiate. It does not adapt to human decisions. It simply changes. If you have made it this far, you are now halfway through this journey. This is a good moment to subscribe to CronoPlanet and continue the journey with us. What comes next takes us into an even more extreme scenario. A place where balance no longer protects and endurance is barely enough to keep existing. The journey continues. Waimiri-Atroari. The rainforest as a border here, the rainforest stops being a refuge. It becomes a boundary. The landscape remains green, dense, seemingly untouched. But beneath that surface lies a history shaped by conflict, loss, and constant defense of territory. We are in northern Brazil, between the states of Amazonas and Roraima, in a region cut through by rivers, highways, and projects that never ask permission. This is where the Waimiri-Atroari people live, a community whose survival cannot be understood without the idea of resistance. For centuries, this territory was their continuous home. Rivers like the Alalau and the Jauapari marked routes, not borders. The rainforest provided food, shelter, and meaning. But everything changed when the outside world decided to cross it. Road construction, especially the BR-174, along with mining and energy projects, altered their environment irreversibly. Contact was not gradual, and it was not consensual. It was abrupt, violent, and devastating. Throughout the 20th century, a severe population decline was documented, linked to armed conflict, introduced diseases, and forced displacement. For them, the rainforest stopped being only a place to live and became something that had to be defended. Since then, the relationship with the outside has been marked by trauma. Distrust is not a political stance, it is accumulated memory. Every foreign incursion reopens a past that never fully closed. Here, isolation is not an ancestral tradition, it is a response. Territory is protected through constant vigilance, through clear limits, through a precise reading of every unfamiliar sound, every footprint that does not belong to the forest. Unlike other Amazonian peoples, the Waimiri-Atroari have had to learn to live alongside imposed infrastructure, power towers, high voltage lines, guarded highways, foreign elements that fractured their living space and disrupted traditional roots. And yet they remain, not as a romantic symbol of resistance, but as a living society demanding something basic, the right to exist without invasion. Here, survival is not about adapting to nature. It is about constantly negotiating with external forces that do not share the same logic of time, territory, or life. For them, the rainforest is no longer only an ecosystem. It is a political border. And that border is not drawn on official maps. It is traced in collective memory, in stories passed down, in daily vigilance over the space that still remains. And then a question becomes impossible to ignore. Who is truly invading whom? When a people is only trying to keep living on the land that has always been theirs. The story of the Waimiri-Atroari forces us to see the Amazon from another angle, not as an empty space waiting to be exploited, but as inhabited territory, defended and deeply marked by outside intrusion. And as we move forward, one truth becomes clearer. When a people is forced to defend its forest, it is no longer fighting only for culture. It is fighting for the right to continue existing. But not every threat is faced the same way. From here on, the response is no longer physical. It is not resistance. It is not confrontation. It is survival by another means, changing the way of being in the world. Pirahã, living anchored to immediate experience. Imagine stopping at the edge of a wide, calm river. The water moves slowly, without urgency, reflecting the sky through the vegetation. The forest opens just enough, never imposing itself, as if it knows when to be present and when to step back. Here, even breathing feels different. Silence does not weigh or disturb, it accompanies. There are no clocks, no sense of haste. Time seems to dissolve into the steady movement of the water. Along the Maichi River in the Brazilian Amazon lives the Pirahã people, a community whose way of understanding life has puzzled anthropologists and linguists for decades. Nothing here is designed to dominate the environment. Life is not organized to last, but to flow. Their villages are small and mobile. Homes are built quickly and abandoned without attachment when the environment signals the need. Objects circulate rather than accumulate because the later, as we understand it, holds no central place in their way of being in the world. Existence is structured around the immediate present. They hunt, fish, and gather only what is needed for the day. When night falls, rest is neither long nor deep. Sleep comes in short intervals, maintaining an alertness that never fully shuts down. The river, the forest, and the sounds of the night define the true rhythm of life. This way of living is neither improvisation nor neglect. It is an extreme adaptation. Linguistic studies have noted that the Pirahã language prioritizes immediacy and direct experience over extended accounts of a distant past or an abstract future. Knowledge is grounded in first-hand experience, what someone has seen, heard, or lived personally, nothing more. Not because they deny what they do not know, but because they do not need it to survive. This form of communication, widely debated in linguistics, also shapes how daily life is organized. From the outside, this absence of accumulation, material, narrative, or temporal, can seem unsettling. But in an environment as unpredictable as the Amazon rainforest, it serves a clear purpose. It reduces anxiety, avoids dependency, and keeps attention fixed on the present moment. There is no long-term planning because the environment shifts. Nothing is stored because excess becomes a burden. The future is not idealized because the forest demands full presence. For the Pirahã, survival also means keeping the mind light. Contact with the outside world has been limited and complex. Extended attempts at evangelization and integration programs failed to profoundly alter their worldview. Not due to open resistance, but because of a radical difference in how reality itself is perceived. While other peoples struggle to preserve their past, they take care of the present. They do not need grand narratives to define themselves, nor future promises to move forward. Their identity rests on what happens here and now, beside a river that never stops flowing. And it is here that an unavoidable reflection emerges. This balance, so subtle, so fragile, only works as long as the environment allows it. When the outside world breaks in, when noise advances and territory shrinks, even the present can no longer guarantee protection. Living anchored in the present then ceases to be a choice and becomes a minimal form of resistance. At this point in the journey, we understand something deeply unsettling. After witnessing so many ways of surviving, there is one that changes everything. There is a people who can no longer stay, who cannot adapt, who cannot be seen. Here we arrive at the destination this journey was leading toward from the very beginning. What comes next is no longer about how one lives. It is about how one flees in order to continue existing. Guajá. Surviving by fleeing. Here the rainforest closes in differently. There are no paths that invite you to stay, no settlements built to last. Staying in one place for too long stops being an option. Fire cannot be kept visible, and there is no place you can call home without risk. Every unfamiliar sound is a warning. Every foreign footprint forces a change of direction. Here, stopping is not resting. It is exposure. In the northeastern Brazilian Amazon, between the states of Maranhão and Pará, lives the Awa people, also known as the Guajá. Multiple international organizations consider them among the most threatened indigenous peoples on Earth. Unlike other groups, Their survival does not rely on holding a fixed territory or gradually adapting to change. It relies on something far more extreme: not being detected. The Awa do not build permanent villages or open wide clearings in the forest. Their lives unfold in constant movement along routes that shift with danger, season, and outside pressure. Staying too long in one place can mean being found. The rainforest is their refuge, but that refuge shrinks every year. Illegal logging, cattle expansion, mining, and roads have fragmented their ancestral land. Every felled tree is not only an ecological loss, it is one less place to hide. Every foreign sound, an engine, a metallic strike, a distant blast, triggers flight. In recent decades, many Awa have endured forced contacts, and each contact carried serious consequences. Respiratory illnesses and infections common to us, spreading rapidly among people with no prior immune defenses. For an isolated people, contact is not cultural exchange. It is a direct threat to existence. That is why some Awa groups have made a final decision: to remain hidden, not as an identity symbol, not as an ideological rejection of the modern world, but as the last possible way to stay alive. Their way of life is austerity taken to the limit. They hunt small animals, gather fruits, roots, and wild honey, and move with only what is essential. Their knowledge of the forest is total. They recognize sounds that do not fit, broken branches where they should not be, silences that do not belong. Danger is not always seen. It is heard. It is sensed. Family is the core of everything. Small groups moving together, protecting children above all. Children who learn very early to walk without noise, to hide, and to read the forest before they ever truly know the outside world. There are no large visible rituals, no prolonged celebrations. There is only one priority: stay alive. The Awa do not flee because they are unaware of the modern world. They flee because they know it too well. They know a road does not only bring machines, it brings disease, it brings violence, it brings disappearance. Their recent history is marked by forced displacement, pursuit, and silent losses. There are no monuments, no vast written archives, only oral memory and absences. Here, survival reaches its most extreme form. Not gradual adaptation, but constant flight. Silent and without margin for error. After witnessing these 7 ways of living in the Amazon, one truth becomes undeniable. When a people must disappear in order to stay alive, the problem is not their way of life. It is the constant pressure invading their territory. The Awa do not represent the past. They represent a present pushed to the edge, still breathing among the trees, and forcing us to question our idea of progress. This journey now comes to an end. Perhaps what stayed with you most was how they live, their bond with the forest, or the certainty that moving forward does not always mean surviving better. And now the reflection is yours. Which community in this journey made you pause the most, and why? If you made it this far, write the key word of this documentary in the comments: silence. It's our way of knowing you walked with us to the very last step. Thank you for being here. If you want to keep exploring the stories the world still keeps in silence, subscribe to CronoPlanet and join us in the next journeys we're already preparing. Because as long as there are peoples who survive by fleeing, the story of the Amazon is still not fully written. See you in the next story.